Good evening and welcome to another episode of Elevator Dialogue. Tonight, we are going to be talking about something many men overlook until it's too late, taking care of themselves. As men, we're often taught to work harder, provide more, and put everyone else's needs above our own. But the truth is, we're not healthy. If we're not healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, we cannot be the husbands, fathers, leaders, or mentors we're called to be. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's part of your responsibility. Tonight, we're talking about why your health, your habits, and your well being matter, not just for you, but for everyone who depends on you. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to introduce my panel for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, right beside me, we have none other than Son of Timothy, the available man. And on the other side of me, we have David Brown, the power of the pastor of the Transformation Center. Under him, we got Cam. And then right beside him, my homeboy KD. And then right beside him, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Thomas Rashad Easley. Ladies and gentlemen, men, welcome to the stage. I appreciate y'all for being here. How are you gentlemen doing today? And before we get started, I know we got a union or uniting two people. I don't know, but Cam and KD, me and these dudes, we go way back 20 years plus, back to Fort Hood in the military. So KD and Cam, I know y'all ain't seen each other for a long time, but I give y'all a second quick to say what's up to each other, whatever like that. And greetings to everybody else. Let me know how y'all doing. Say what's up to each other. All of those good things before we get started.
Done, man. What it do, man? How you been,
Yeah,
bro?
yeah, what's happening, baby?
Man,
What's
I ain't seen you in a minute, man. How you doing?
Likewise, man. It's good to see you, my boy.
Man, good to see you too, man. I'm looking forward to this discussion, man. But I was looking forward when I saw your name on the list. I said, man, I ain't seen this mug in a grip, man. So it's good to see you, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're gonna chop it up after too, man. I gotta get your info. All
Okay, for sure.
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, everybody else has already been on the show before, but this is Cam's first time in a while, way since the old elevator dialogue. But if you want to hear a little bit more about David Brown, Son of Timothy, Dr. Easley, or KD, go back and watch one of the first two episodes, and you can find out more information about them in the beginning. But Cam, give us a quick 30, 45 seconds, a little bit about who you are, your background, just so the people who are watching will know a little bit more about who you are, a little bit about your background.
Okay, everybody. My name is Cameron, 50 years old. I'm from Alabama, retired military. Been retired for about 12 years. Currently a senior sales and operation manager with a defense company out of Austin, Texas. I have one son, not married, and that's just a little bit about me right there.
Man, I like it, man. And I am so excited to be here. But one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to spend the whole time smiling and telling everybody how excited I am. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it off with our first kind of icebreaker. And this is for all of us to kind of go around. I kind of want Cam to start. Cam got somewhere to go in a little bit, so he's not going to be with us for the entire show. But I definitely want to make sure that we get to hear, from here, definitely hear his perspective before he rolls out. But also in the chat or something like that, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or something like that, feel free to give your comment and your response to this. So Cam, and then everybody else after that, what is one healthy habit I wish I had started? Well, one healthy habit I wish I had started 10 years earlier is. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Well, what I put, gentlemen, I was like, I put taking care of my mental health as intentionally as I did my physical health. I focused on staying physically strong, but I didn't always get the same attention to managing my stress, processing my emotions, getting adequate rest, and protecting my peace of mind. So that's mine, gentlemen.
Yeah, kind of similar. especially as soldiers, we're always working on our exterior, right? You got to be ready so we can pass. We can pass that APFT. But I didn't take serious what I put in my body until I got a diagnosis that I didn't like, but I should have saw it coming because it's hereditary. You know what I mean? But it was at that moment that I was like, "Oh man, I got to get serious." But then every time, you get serious, you do good, but if you have a little slip, you know, it hurts. It hurts you because you're not trying to keep yourself from getting sick. I waited till I already had a diagnosis. So now at that point, you really have room to slip up. So one thing I wish I would have taken my health more serious as far as what I consume.
I think I would say the thing that, for me, the thing is getting what I put down said, you know, getting a sufficient amount of rest, sleep, 8 hours of sleep. We're not taught to get 8 hours of sleep. We taught to grind it out. You stay up late, get up early and everything. And, you hear a lot of the people talking like that's the way to live and everything. But if you keep living that way, your body's going to eventually, if you don't sit down, your body will sit you down. And I learned that from not getting the sufficient amount of rest. I would say that. And also hydration, drinking more water, different things are like that. And even, like you say, the mental health as well. I think all that, so I can definitely co-sign and agree with what you gentlemen have already said.
Yeah, I think for me, everybody kind of touched bases on at least one of the things that I was going to say. The only thing that I would add in that, man, is I wish I would have started early, just gathering more information. You know what I mean? Just kind of taking heed to the old head, so to speak, right? During that time frame, we as young people, we know everything. You know what I mean? And so a lot of things I feel like that I went through, I could have avoided if I had taken heed during that time frame. So again, it's a collective of what everybody already pitched in, but that's the only thing I would add in there.
And mine, I think that's a good one. And before Dr. Easley steal mine, because I know he already done wrote a book. So just in case he along these lines over here, mine is reading. And I remember I heard some old Psalm major, heard some people talking about how important reading is. Now, KD talked about getting in information. Mine is specifically reading. Now, I will tell you this, I cheat a little bit. I don't like to read. And if you want me to take a snooze or take a nap, put a book in front of me. But one thing that I will do is I will throw in a book all day long in my ear, and I'll go and run, or I'll walk, or I'll go work out or lift weights or do whatever. So I still get my books in, but I just don't get them, the old fashioned way like this. But specifically reading books is one of the things, and actually one of the staples and one of the books that I believe that every man should read. It came from highly, what's the word? Not requested. It came highly recommended from Dr. Easley. And it was the which call it man, the way of the superior man.
Superior.
That book right there, I'm gonna tell you, that book is the bomb. I think I passed that off to you too, Brown, didn't I? I put you onto that book, The Way of the Superior Man. I may not have.
Yes.
That book right there, game changer right there. And I that came highly recommended from Dr. E. So just for me, bouncing off of what KD's talking about was specifically getting in books.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is, I wish I would have paid myself earlier 10 years ago. I was giving so much of my money away, and in some ways, yes, appropriately. But I think that there's money is a tool. And I think that the money has been confused and utilized in different ways, and in my opinion, of sucking that out of our community. And so it's one of those things that now that I do it, I use it, I've been working for myself. I know a lot more about trust, foundations, having assets, taking my parents' house so they don't have to, like worry about that. But 10 years ago, if I would have started this 10 years ago, man, shoot, Jay-Z would have been running from me. Because because the things that I know now, I'm like, oh man, boy, I should have robbed my last employer. Anyway, that's a different conversation. But yeah, so I'm just saying, and I don't mean illegally. I mean with my time, that's one. But then also with my money, that's another one. And then also with my feelings and my emotions, which I think all the brothers have talked about it because I gave away so much.
If we look at the title of the title of the show is called Why Taking Care of Yourself is a Responsibility of a Man. So if we look at our first statement, which is our talking point, our first conversation talking piece for tonight, the statement is this, gentlemen, and feel free to have at it as you may. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's one of the greatest responsibilities a man has. Thoughts, comments, questions, have at it.
Well, hey, I'll start this one off again, gentlemen, if y'all don't mind. I actually, this is what I actually put for that. I was actually putting some thought in, and I was like, taking care of yourself, it honors the life and abilities you've been given. When you care for yourself wisely, you're better equipped to love your family, lead with integrity, serve your community, and most important, glorify God. So that's my input on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right on the spot, right? It all comes down to being able to be there for other people, right? And not just physically, but mentally as well. When you find out that your mental is good and you're better prepared, then you can go out in the world and you can take care of everybody else the same way. And that doesn't mean just giving things to people, right? You can pour into people. Again, not just your family either. You know what I mean? And so, no, it's not selfish. If I need that rest that you were talking about earlier, if I need to get that 6 to 8 hours of rest to be better equipped when I wake up in the morning for the people that I'm going to encounter when I go out in the world. Because if I don't get that rest, I'm going to be cranky. You know what I mean? I'm going to be all over the place. Your wives, your kids, they expect a certain level of you. And if you're not taking care of yourself and being selfish with your time, then that output is going to be horrible. And then you're going to be the mean person and the grumpy guy. What's the guy on Martin, the grumpy man or something like that? You're going to be that guy all the time, So you definitely got to make sure you pour into yourself. So no, it's not selfish at all.
But all right, so I got all of that. But so have any of y'all ever done anything in a relationship or whatever and been called selfish? And what was it? You know what I mean? Because there are people who like, look, me going to the gym and getting that hour in every day, they like, well, you ain't got to go to the gym every day. I read online that you only need to go 3 days a week and you only need to get 10,000 steps a day. Well, you can do that around the house. So why you got to go to the gym? You know what I mean? So have any of y'all, I just kind of want to open this up a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because I think we all going to kind of answer similarly. But I don't know if anybody else been like, hey, bro, that's whatever you doing, that's selfish. But you like, nah, this ain't selfish. I need this for us.
Yeah. That's good.
Nobody?
I'll tell you, man, I'm not even going to lie, man. I think it was more so when I was in the military. So I can't really say that at this point. But I think when I was in the military, everything was more so about promotion and just trying to get further ahead. You know what I mean? And so you needed that time to study. You needed that time to kind of pour into the craft of whatever it is that you were doing. And then you're always away. Sometimes you might go and be at work all day, and then right after work, you go straight to the gym, where that's selfish, right? Because you could come home, you've been gone all day. Like you just said, you can do this thing at the house, but it's not about where I do it at. It's more so about the peace of mind of what I need. I know if I'm doing it at the house, I'm probably going to get interrupted. It's probably going to be something that I'm going to be required to do once I step in there. But if I can go over here, get this little hour of me time real quick, and then come back, trust me, I'm going to be a better person for you. You know what I mean? And I think it just comes down to communication at the end of the day, too.
Yeah, that's key.
I think there's three things that's ringing in my head from three different people who have said to me. One was my mother. My mother, she would always say to me, she would say, David, self-preservation comes first, you know. And she would always say that because, with everything that we were doing, being married, having kids, being in education, being a pastor, all that stuff, people pulling from all different directions. And she would actually say, you got to make sure you take care of yourself, or you're not going to be able to take care of those others that you love. And then even my own pastor came to me. He said, look, Pastor, I know you're pouring out, but you need time to yourself because burnout is a real thing. And then lastly, I never forget one time I was actually, I guess you could say I was just losing it. I was at the point of this when I lived in Baltimore, kind of breaking down a little bit. And I never forget, my family was around and my daughter said to me, she said, Dad, I think this proves a point that you need to become more selfish. And those things ring in me even now as it relates to taking care of myself, because I won't be able to, as you said, Katie, be the best for others if I'm not taking care of myself. And I think that's vital and that's so important.
No, I'm feeling everything everybody's saying on this one. My second underneath son of Timothy, right? That name was something that was given to me that I just kind of ran with. But underneath that, where it says available man, that is the name I decided to take along with me on platforms. If if I ever put together the blueprint to build my platform, that's the name I'm going with. Why? Because it speak, and a lot of people look at it, they go, available man, you single? That's what that means? No. That's self-awareness that I need to be available for everybody I'm responsible to be available for. And I think sometimes as men in our society today, it's almost as if the male figure is forgotten.
Mhm.
But the one thing that we can maintain is our availability there, so that when to the father who don't have who don't have the access to his child, well, the day gonna come that they're gonna come looking for daddy. Are you gonna be available? Or when they come
Mhm.
find you, are you gonna be too sick to enjoy the moment?
Mhm.
Or are we going to be here?
Mhm.
And these are real questions in our community. So I think if you take that selfish approach to it, like in the mindset, then I think we're missing the mark. Because my first responsibility is to my home. Well, my first responsibility is to my God, then to my home, and then it's to my community. But what good is that if we have to stop allowing everybody else to tell us what our diet should look like and what our worship should look like, what our God should look like, what our culture should look like, right? And guess what? We listen to all these folk and we still complaining about the community we got. Something ain't working. I digress right there. I'm gonna leave the doors open for the doctor to come in.
No, I appreciate that, brother. I was like, thank you. That was on point though. I like your tangents. See, we gotta have more of those. Mine. Let's see. Mine is more business focused, but I want to thank. Actually, I want to thank Son of Timothy and also Pastor Brown the way that they brought it. Like what you all said is what brought it to my mind. So I have like a small. Don't minimize it, but I have a music label. And I have about like 5 different artists on there across the country: California, Ohio, here, North Carolina. Oh, and then my homeboy Cam, I'm from Birmingham, so I got an artist from Birmingham, Alabama on there too. And then when everything started getting a little interesting about 2 years ago, it was like I really wanted to kind of retreat and focus on me, because I've been supporting artists, like more than 11 different artists for years. I've helped them put their music out. I don't ask for payback. I know how to do business and stuff, but I'm like, hey, I'm here to support. I'm here to help. And then about 2 years ago, it was like I like hit a wall and was like, man, it was like I needed some me time to focus on my artistry. What blew me away is when I met with, like with all my label mates, because technically I'm on it too, but I'm the guy. They all were like, man, they said, man, we've been waiting on you to do this. They're like, you've been taking care of us for the last, it was 2 years ago. That's 2024. So they were like, since 2018. They said, you just been paying us and checking with us and doing this. And like, I would go visit them around the country, help them do things, you know. And they said, but we noticed that you didn't do that for yourself. And they said, that was the thing that got us when we were like, he's doing this for us. He's actually never done this just for himself. So they pushed me. Now, I will also say this, labor mates are all men. So they completely understood. And they all, it was just like this. Out of the 6 of us, it was 6 of us on the call. All of the other 5 were like, Sean, you need to go. They were like, we're going to be here. And what's crazy is, you know, I thought they would probably bounce if I do that. And the relationships just got tighter. You know, it's like now they giving more. They're like, oh, man, here's more music. I got a show here. Can you do this? And I'm like, man, when I was really hustling hard for y'all, I had to work to get y'all to move. Now that I'm taking care of myself, they coming to me.
Man, I like everything that everybody said. One of the things I want to get a little bit more specific, and I want to focus on the actual health piece of this, right? So I know something about all you guys' health journey a little bit. You know, I see Gaddy on walking during the daytime. He's putting out content. I've seen him make gym videos. Me and David Brown, we talk about the gym and working out on a regular basis at work. Me and Cam, when we was deployed, I remember us having come. He was like, "Man, it only take me about, you know, if I get a little putty, take me about 30 days, and I'm right back in it." Like we could get right back in it. You know, we was in the gym. You know, me and Dunn, we used to go to the gym together and stuff like this. I think if I'm willing to bet my paycheck on it that I met Dr. Easley in the gym at NC State. So, and then we all 6 of us men up here, we have understood or at least have some understanding of health. But there are a lot of brothers out there, and I saw some statistic about how many men out there who are overweight and are not taking care of their health. So I don't want to get into necessarily diets and different things like that. But one of the things I do want to talk about is that, you know, how important it is for us, for our longevity, to take care of ourselves right now, because this thing is chess, not checkers, you know. And somebody mentioned diet or something like that earlier too. So for you gentlemen, I know when I was out there, when I was in Iraq and I was lifting, I was ego lifting. I wasn't trying to it wasn't about living a long time. It was about looking a certain way, you know. But as I've gotten older, my perspective on what I do in the gym has changed, you know. So what I want to do is I want to kind of understand and get to kind of see what you guys think about this. So again, when did you gentlemen realize that your health affected more than just you?
I think for me, really when I had kids, man. I think when you have a family, for the most part, you just kind of going through the motions, right? But and then I will also say that I attest a lot of that too to my wife, because it's not just about being in the gym; it's more so about what you're eating, what you're putting in your body. And then we need vitamins, we need certain things, whether you do the holistic thing or whatever the case may be. I think for me, it was more so about when I'm gone, am I speeding up my life or can I slow it down? Right. And that's when it really became important. When they really talk about your body being a temple, you really got to take heed to that. You know what I mean? Because if you don't treat it like that, you'll see as you get older what the effects can be, right? And so if I want to be here just a little bit longer, if I want to be here to 100 and not 99, that could be the difference between me pushing out one more or not eating this thing right here or not doing that one thing, because that's another year that I can be around for my kids and my family. So I think that was it for me.
Yeah. Hey, Garfield, I think I'm gonna take a different approach. I learned when I had 7 surgeries. So I had facial reconstruction surgery, wrist surgery, 2 ankle surgeries, 2 procedures on my neck. And when I had my facial reconstruction surgery, my mouth was wired shut for 8 weeks. and then I had to eat through a tube, and I required so much help from other people. And then going through that surgeries, realizing they had to alter their lives to help take care of me. And then also as I've got older, like you said one thing, they call me, I do different stuff in the gym now. I ain't trying to bench 315 no more. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to do all that crazy stuff. That's why I had to have shoulder surgery about 3 years ago. So you realize that, man, when you do things like that, from my perspective, that's how I realized that, hey, me not taking care of myself not only affects me, and then by me, I'm not like you guys. I'm a single man. So I'm out here stuck like Chuck. If I need somebody to care for me, y'all got wives in the house that's going to help take care of y'all.
Yeah. What I realized, can you put that statement up there again, Garfield, if you don't mind? When did you realize, okay, your health affected more than just you? I think this is, and I like what Katie, you mentioned about how the Word of God talks about our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And I realized one time when I was in church, and see, they don't talk about this stuff in church, They talk about, the guy who's on crack, but they don't mention anything about the 500-pound preacher who can't keep fried chicken out of his mouth, and they don't, talk about stuff like that. But I never forget one time I was in church and, we were praising God. I was shouting and everything. And then I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt. And, I hit the famous thing. The devil attacking me, the devil attacking me. We say that. And so I said to my wife, oh, man, the devil's attacking me. Pray. Tell the pastor. So she told the pastor, we had one of the realest pastors. And she said, no, that's not the devil. David's fat and he needs to get in shape. Plain and simple. Wasn't the type of thing I wanted to hear. But hey, I realized, I said, okay. And I ain't gonna lie, I was offended. I'm like, that ain't God, But no, it was. And then a couple weeks later, we're at a funeral. One of our friends, her sister passed away from diabetes, and we're at the funeral. Pastor says, hey, I got to share something with you. And she says, I just need you to understand that God wants you to take care of your health because, and this is what she said, because the enemy would desire to take you out before your time. And so that my health was affecting, number one, my ability to please and honor God. That's the first thing I want to say.
Amen.
My health was affecting my ability to make an impact in his kingdom and do what he's called me to do, because the Bible tells us to honor him and glorify him with our bodies and not to defile this temple. And in that same way, because I wasn't doing that, it was hindering me from being the best I could be for my wife and for my children, And so that's what I would say, that statement, me not taking care of myself was affecting my relationship with God. And it was affecting my relationship with my wife and affecting my relationship with my kids and my ability to take care of them. And if I can be real, we're on here, even with that, when you take care, it even affects your sex drive. Let's keep it real. And that, and I was like, I need to get this right, Lord. And so that's what I would say about that, Yeah.
That's what's up. You going, Gaddy?
You can go ahead.
I would say for me, 2018, man. I'll get a little personal since David Brown did. My father was on and off again drugs since he was a teenager, and my dad died in 2018, and I think he was 63. And then there is no men in my family who has reached the right old age of 70. And, here I am at 50. My dad died 8 years ago. So when I was 42, so it's like I don't have a man, I don't have a father to call and be like, hey, bro, look, I'm 50 years old. This is the stuff that I'm going through at 50. How was it when you was 50? I don't have that. My dad ain't here. All the uncles and all the men, they're all gone. Like, there's nobody around here. The oldest man in my family, I think, is 62, 63, somewhere around there. So we don't have any older generational men that I can reach out to. Where I got 3 sons and a bunch of nieces and nephews and stuff like that. And all of them don't have fathers, so for some of them, and even for my sons, I'm it. I'm where the buck stops. So if I want my sons to not have to experience what I'm going through at 50 or at 42, I mean that I need to take care a little bit better of my health. When I was younger and got some good genetics, get by with a little bit of stuff. When you're on the smaller side, you can get by with eating a little bit more hot Cheetos and eating snacks a little bit more than other people, but because like me and Cannibal, I can go get in the gym in 30 days. This pudge or this be gone like that, like it ain't nothing, when you're 25 years old, but at 50, take a little bit more. It's a little bit more chest again, So again, just wanting to be able to live around here, after my father died, and I couldn't pick up the phone and call him for any guidance or wisdom, anything like that. He didn't take care of himself. He spent like I said, a large portion of his life on and off again on drugs and stuff like that. So it eventually took the best of him. So even though he was clean and sober, the damage had already been done to his body, his liver, and different things like that. So it was just a matter of time. So again, for me, that was the time when I realized that it affected me more. I got 3 sons. Their ages right now are 21, 24, and 31. And I want to be around here so they can call me when they get my age.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Oh, Gaddy, you go ahead.
My bad. It was an interesting time for me when I realized it affected more than me. Believe it or not, I was somewhere walking. I know I was walking. I was on the phone talking to Roland because I had got out of Bible study church I used to attend back in Lawton. He was like, "Hey, Elder, we'd love to have you log on. We're doing virtuals. This is around the COVID time. We're doing virtuals. Bible said we'd love for you to hop on." I hopped on, and they're talking about peace. Don't sound related, but I'm gonna put it together. Give me 2 seconds. And that every Baptist preacher say that before they rattle on. But when we're talking about peace, and over again, I just kept hearing everybody and seeing everybody's comments saying, "Protect your peace, get your peace. This is what you gotta do to your peace, your peace, your peace, your peace, your peace." And I'm going through the scriptures. I'm walking and I'm on my phone looking, and so I put in the chat, and it hit me. He said, "My peace I give to you." I said, "How can you protect what you can't give yourself?" Because if you're talking about worldly peace, you're talking about quietness. But if you're talking about true peace, you're talking about a gift that is given to you, right? "My peace I give unto you," right? Or "I will keep you in perfect peace, those whose mind is stayed on me," right? So when I was dealing with that, it sent me down a rabbit hole. Me and Roland ended up going down rabbit holes of scripture, and that's the more and more I started realizing. And we were talking about, when did I realize that health wasn't just about me? That's when I started realizing the scriptures were commanding a lot more of us than we like to have told one another. We've been living, I would say, at least the last 20 years. I feel like the church has been so heavily driven on trying to figure out what we can get away with instead of preaching the righteousness of God.
Yeah.
And so even our doctrines have become we're so hell bent on proving that the law is done away with, that we don't, and because we're so worried about teaching that, we don't realize that in there he gave us the blueprint to our health.
Yeah.
The blueprint didn't change. I'm just not, and we're not going to get into Bible study about the law, but we forget the way to do right is written in the same place that we've been teaching people. I would say at least the last 20 years, I've been hearing it so heavily, right? Where it's like, if anybody quotes something out of there to make a correction, "Oh, that's the Old Testament, don't talk to me." That's the word that Christ was quoting. The word Paul was quoting. When you said Paul told you that not to look at that, well, he was quoting it to you in the same chapter. right? And we can all the apostles. What word did they take with them when they went on their journeys? When they went and evangelized? When they started the assembly in Lucidation? What did they bring with them? What word did Paul have when he says all Scripture is inspired by God and is good and is profitable for teaching, for instructions in righteousness, for correction, for rebuke? I'm just saying. But these are the things. When I started reading that, I started realizing, like, hey, this diet thing really started to change the way I looked at how I ate and how I gave myself, because now I realize taking care of it put the link to my body was the temple. I'm doing this to honor God and to be a vessel to his people and to my family.
Well, mine is technically mine's more work related. So I grew up overweight majority of my life. I think next year it'll change, and then I'll be on the second half. So I was 307 pounds at my heaviest. So I was big in school. You know, I was big in high school, and I learned later that that was really like a lot of that was, you know, depression, insecurity, you know, low confidence, things like that. I get to college, I gain more weight, you know, and then next thing you know, I get a job. I'm working in Montana, and I'm doing forestry work in the mountains where the air is thin. And I'm about 290, 295 at that time. And I'm meeting the crew because, you know, in service, you know, we worked on the crew. And I walk up to meet my supervisor. I still remember Steve Clark. Still remember that man's name. I reached out to shake his hand. How you doing, sir? First thing he said to me, he said, "Oh, we're going to make you lose some of that." That's the first thing he said. Didn't say hello. Didn't say nice to meet you. Didn't say welcome. I was the only black guy in the county too. He said, "We're going to help you." No, he said, "We're going to help you, not make you. We're going to help you lose some of that." And I was like, okay. And what I have to acknowledge is I appreciate him for saying that to you know, to me, because it did just like my brother said, yeah, I was offended, you know, but it didn't hit me like being bullied in school, which turned me into a mean person for a minute. It didn't hit me like girls not liking me. It didn't hit me like my family members talking about me. It just hit me like, oh, okay, all right. Maybe I was used to the hell I had taken from other people that I expected to love me better than they did. But, you know, that was I was up there for like 3.5 years. That summer, I made it my goal to at least lose 20 pounds. My first day out, we walked up a mountain. I only walked 120 feet. Y'all know that's not far. And it looked like I took a shower in my clothes. That was enough for me at that time. That was it. I was like, no, like, it's like I got mad at myself. I was like, what, man, what is, you know, and I'm up here thinking that I'm doing something. Long story short, by the end of that summer, my supervisor had put me on a different crew because I was out working and out running up and down the mountains, everybody else. And keep in mind, I was still the biggest person. I just lost a little weight. I was still the only black person. So that means that I had to be strong and make sure that them people knew not to mess with me, you know, but I was also there where the militia was. So I had to also be smart. And so me starting to lose weight was, for me, it was like, oh, maybe I wouldn't be afraid of being outside if I was slimmer. Maybe I wouldn't be insecure about talking to people if I was a little bit slimmer. Maybe I wouldn't have, you know, just, you know, and of course it's more than that, right? You know, it's not just looks, it's how you feel. But that's when it hit me like my crew is depending on me to do stuff. And then when I almost got attacked by a bear, okay, it was the fact that you can't outrun a bear now, but it was the fact that I could move quick and that my partner could, matter of fact, respect to all y'all veterans, you know, but he was Navy and he ran to get me. He was like, "Thomas, let's go." And took, you know, and his name was Jim Moran. I still remember that. And Jim was a big guy, but it was like when it kicked in and he had to protect one of his crewmates or somebody in his crew, he had a different, it was like his mind switched. And he like picked me up and took me out. And I was like, I want to be able to do that. You know, I want to be able to move like that. And so like Garfield mentioned in the gym, being able to work out with the Navy, the Marines, and the Army, yeah, you know, y'all broke me. I got that fixed. But, you know, I learned to appreciate my body a whole lot more, particularly because I'm working with people who need me. Then I saw one of God's creations, like looking at me a certain way. And it's like, man, if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm gone. So that's when.
Thank you for recognizing, you know, the real veterans before you brought up the Navy. You know. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Hey, and that's
I
important
just pay my
too.
taxes.
No, that's you saying that is important too, because I didn't even think about that subconsciously. You think about that when you are in the military, right? Because you got to go overseas. You deploy. Your people depend on you, right? And so if I'm not in the best shape that I can be, or in the best health that I can be, it's going to affect them. It's going to affect the bottom line as well. So that just kind of hit me when you said that too. So.
Mhm. You know, one thing I want to say is because one thing I wanted to just think about is Garfield. You mentioned that. Think about even my parents. And I think you and I have talked about this at work several times. We talked about health. We didn't have those examples. You know, I mean, think about. I mean, I can say my parents. It wasn't going to the gym. They wasn't. And if they was giving me vegetables, it had all this grease in it with the fat back
Fried
and
okra.
fried okra. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Nobody
sir.
was steaming broccoli for 2 minutes and everything, or nobody was making a smoothie with bananas and kale and spinach and pineapples and mango. What?
Mhm.
No, you know. And so you had to think about that. And I was like, when I think about it, like, this is not something that I was taught, or many of us were not taught this coming up. So it was definitely when I began to move this way, and then my wife and all, it began to break a cycle and a generational curse, you know, because I was like, this is not going to be my lot. And I think one of you said, because I think it was UKD, or about being around a long time. And that's what my desire is, to be around a long time for my wife, for my children, my grandchildren. I want to be able to see my great grandchildren and different things like that. And so I take this thing seriously when it comes to health. And people, what they don't do, they don't they despiritualize this thing. If you know what I'm saying, they try to separate it from the word of God, or they try to separate it from God like it don't matter. But it matters, because I really can't be who he's called me to be if I'm not taking care of this body. I just wanted to add that in there.
You brought up something important right there at the end, right? You said that they separated it from the word of God. They despiritualize. Well, what happens when the only way you can despiritualize is when you create a false spiritual concept. And so what we've done is we've mystified what the scriptures are saying instead of telling the truth on it. So you detach from the spiritual connection to the scriptures by lying on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we go into to an effect to where we say, no, Christ died, now I can eat the same stuff that's killing us at a very large rate. Like, when did he give us the freedom to get sick? He gave us the freedom to go into the grave early and not raise our grandchildren, because we're supposed to be elders in our community at a certain age. How can we be elders if we're hospital bound? I'm just saying, like, so when you say that, it's because and what we do is we mystify the concept. We go lay hands on them. So the problem is we call some of these things ourselves, and we're expecting for the Most High to fix it. When he already fixed it, he told you how to avoid it. The fix was there. Now you calling on them because you're in the hospital.
You saying so?
The same ones on the altar crying for you ain't been on the altar to cry for nothing else in their life. Why you ain't on the altar crying about the fat back in your greens killing you? Why you not on the altar talking about the stuff you ain't let go and you worried? Never mind.
It's that I think it's too that rationalization, right? You try to rationalize to yourself that this ain't so bad. And what I mean is that it's always that, well, if I do it just this one time, it'll be okay. It's not gonna hurt. You know how everybody talk about that cheat day, and one cheat day turned into another cheat day, and this cheat day turned into that cheat day. And then by the time you look up, you done cheated your whole life. You know what I'm saying? Because you haven't came back to what it was supposed to be. And I think that's kind of how I took what you just said as well, right? We rationalize what we want to get the outcome that we visualize.
Yeah.
Brothers,
Y'all
if I
brothers
can
on.
what
Go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Brother Gaddy. Like, one, I just want to say thank you. See, that's the tangent. See, we need more of that. Okay, and thank you, Brother KD, by you said it, because it just set me up, and Pastor too. It just set me up for what I'm about to say. I think so. I think comfort in integration spiritually destroyed us, and because our community had everything that we needed. We had everything, whether it was a doctor, whether it was a lawyer, whether it was a banker, whether it was a farmer, whether it was a teacher, whether it was an educator, and then of course whether it was the pastor. We had all of that in the community. But what I believe is, I think that, and the reason why I bring up integration is because when we integrated, what community gave up most of what they had? It was us. When we focus on the dainties, and I'm gonna say just Eurocentric, even though it's not all white. I do challenge whiteness, but it's not all white people. Because say devils in every color group, but as well as angels, excuse me, but I think that when we started seeing what they had as better than what we had, I don't know if you know, like, so I was born in the 70s. I remember growing up, vegetables was the staple. Hardee's and McDonald's was a specialty. By the time my grandmama died when I was 14, and that was the big death for me still at 14. Like, that's the one out of everything. I still got my parents, so I thank God for that, because I know that'll be the one. But that's still the one that shook me, because I was like, she fed me. If I prayed, I thought it was supposed to fix this. Hold on. My world is still crushed because my world is gone. It's different now because I know God is my world, but at that time it messed me up. That's what sent me down my rabbit hole of getting in trouble and doing things. But she was on the 74. I was like, man, she had diabetes, but she died from cancer. Hold up. Now we live in a factory, so I know that plays a part in it. But in the end, and I mean, rest in peace to my grandma. Like, I ain't gonna never say nothing bad, and definitely don't say nothing bad about the dead. But when I looked at when she died, another sister died the next year, another sister died that same year, a brother died. And then I started to know, I'm like, wait a minute, everybody's dying. And then my cousins started dying. I'm like, people who were just 20 years older than me. I'm like, hold up. And people my age started dying. And I'm like, and then I realized, okay, what's killing us more? Bullets or diabetes? Diabetes, geez. That's what's killing us. So I say comfort, because that's why I wanted to bring up how the fast food changed, how it changed over time. So, so I just wanted to say that I believe that, I just wanted to add, probably something like just a little bit more on the ground, but that connects to what my brothers are saying spiritually, because I believe that that's why in the Bible it tells us the physical man, but then people are just say, yeah, but you got to feed the spiritual man. And I'm looking at them like, you feed your physical man 5 times more, shut up. And that's how I felt a lot of times when I went to church. I was like, no, y'all. Now I say this and then for real, I'll hush. One thing that did happen for me, I joined the Nation of Islam at a young age. That messed with my thinking in a positive way. Because when I saw them brothers being disciplined and saw how their marriages stayed together, and how their finances were in a better place, and that more churches were closing than mosques, I was like, hold up, something's off. They do alms giving, we do tithing. 2% versus 10%, and we still can't get it straight. So, those kind of things also, like made me think like, man, it's not, and then that's when it goes to financial health. I'm like, okay, it's not just physical health. We got to talk about financial health. It's not just financial health. We got to talk about mental health. It's not just mental health. We got to talk about spiritual, and then that's when I was like, it's all connected. Even Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Some of us can't even fast for 40 minutes.
So. Yeah. Can I add one more thing?
Dr. Easley 555. But that's the truth though. Like, I know we saying a lot of this stuff, and a lot of times, people look at this and say, you guys are harsh and stuff like this. But if I'm looking at this, like, this what I want my sons to hear. You know what I mean? Like, I want my sons to hear the truth. I want them to hear the uncut truth. That when they look at this at some point in their life, or y'all's kids or nieces or nephews, whatever, like, listen to it. Like, look, bro, like, it's rough out here. And if you don't take care of yourself, then it could lead to a shorter life. And it could lead to a more uncomfortable life. You know, at least even if you don't live longer, the worst thing that can happen to you if you take care of your health, the worst thing that can happen to you is that you have a better quality of life. That's the worst thing that can happen to you if you take care of your health. You know, even if you get to 99 and not 100, your quality of life to 99 is going to be good. You're going to be able to have fun with your grandkids. You know, it's more than just being around here for our grandkids, you know, like last November, man, I went to go see my son, my oldest son. He's 31. He got 2 kids. Right now they're 9 and 4. Man, I jumped on the trampoline park for about 4 hours, bro. Like up and down the slide, up and down the slide. And I found myself in a moment, the little baby, Haley, 4 years old, man, she would run she was running me ragged. At one point, I sat down and I was like, bro, I'm done. I'm like, Haley, go ahead and play. And then all of a sudden, this little birdie or little angel, someone on my shoulder, like, bro, this is what you asked for. You said that you wanted to be an active participant in your grandkid's life. Get your hand parts back up on the slide. So I went back up the slide about another 20 more times. But the good thing about it is I was able to do it. You know what I mean? I was 49 years old. I'm able to just go up and down the slides, jump on the trampoline for so long. So again, the quality of life that you can have just by taking care. We're just talking about physical health because Dr. Easy lists a whole bunch of different other health, spiritual, monetary, all these other ones too. But just when it comes to the physical, having quality of life, KD talked about it too, and a lot of us hit on it. When we're 69, when we're 67 years old, 67, right? And we're out there, like, we don't have to worry about our kids. Like, I don't want to spend 3 out of the 5 days a week in the hospital. Like someone talk about, Cam talking about when he had the surgeries, having to adjust his whole lifestyle and having other people having to adjust their lifestyle for me too. We say we love our kids. Well, don't force your kids to be in a situation to where they can't even enjoy their life and their grandkids because they're spending their your last years taking care of you. Now, and again, I am not talking about things that are out of your control. I'm not talking people with physical disabilities, just certain things that you cannot control. We can only control what we can control. But to our best of our abilities, men, boys, you watching this, take care of what you can take care of. One of the things I wanted to hit before we move on is Walter. Walter, he was on here the last couple of shows. I think he'll be back next week. He realized his health affected more than him when he got divorced and became a full-time father. He said, I knew he needed to be around for his kids because essentially that's all he got. And that's the reality of it. Because when you have separation, especially, this is for any men out there that's younger. When you have separation and stuff like that, and y'all get divorced and stuff like this, you don't know the type of man that the other woman is going to be around. You don't know what type of habits and stuff that he's going to expose your son to. So if you can help counter some of that by being a good example of going to the gym or working out or taking care of your health, whatever that thing looks like for you and your health and fitness journey. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of what I wanted to kind of leave with. And then just the other piece about just not, again, kind of reiterating, just not getting the information. My parents didn't grow up, going to the gym, running, working out and doing stuff. It just, nobody in my family did. It wasn't, not saying that anybody was bad, but it just wasn't something that I was shown or that I saw across the board growing up, so it just, I fortunately started playing sports at an early age and, even got into high school and stuff. So, and then went to the military. So I've always been around people who worked out. So it just became part of who I am now. But anything y'all got on this health before we move on?
I just want to throw.
We've only been on 2 things the entire time, which means this is a great conversation.
I was gonna say that's a good problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
The last thing I want to add in is just go get checked out too. Right as you get older, go to the doctor. I mean, as men, we have this thing, depending on how you was raised. I know my grandfather, he passed from cancer as well, but he was one of those guys. I mean, I noticed it in my family where he didn't like to go to the doctor. If whatever it was, it will pass, right? But we have to go to the doctor, whether you got to get that finger stuck in your butt, whatever it is, get your prostate checked, whatever, you have to get checked out because that's a silent killer, right? You can be doing all this healthy stuff, you can do everything right, and because you didn't go get checked out and get early detection on certain things, you just, you cut your life short as well in that area too. So I just wanted to throw that out there, man. And I say that because I'm reaching that age where I just had to get mine done. And I'm getting into these stages where I have to make it routine. It's uncomfortable. And I'll say that. But it's better to know than to not know. So I just wanted to throw that out there, man.
Can I chime in real quick? Yeah.
Yeah.
That I really appreciate that, Katie. That's so awesome because my dad, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he did beat it, but he was diagnosed with it. And so I make sure I get checked out and everything, like you say, even the prostate exams, all those different things is definitely important. And as men, we have that responsibility to do that, get those exams. And then Dr. Easley, you tapped at some things where you talk about not just the physical, but the spiritual, the relational, the financial, all that. And even as far as our ministry, like those are our pillars. We focus on faith, family, fitness, and finances. That's what Transformation Center is all about, because transformation is not just spiritual, it's physical, it's relational, it's mental, it's financial. And then it's also another thing is you mentioned something about comfort, Dr. Easley. And I never forget, why is it when we are sick or someone is sick, people come to your house and bring you food and they bring you the worst stuff? Why is it they bring you the worst stuff? I see you laughing, all of y'all laughing. And I forget, came home from the hospital and some people from my old church in Baltimore bought me some desserts. It's like, here's some comfort food, and this is when I was on my health journey. But, I'm like, should I eat it? Should I eat it? And I lied to you not. And I heard the voice of God say to me, he said, don't you dare look to this food for comfort, because I am your comforter. And that messed me up. And so we have to remember that food was never created to comfort us, but to nourish us. And I just wanted to say that real quick.
I got a question to ask, especially, I'm gonna say, my spiritual brothers, and including you too, Brother KD, what do you think it is? Like, is it fear of, look, I grew up poor and didn't know I was poor, right? So it's not it wasn't like an ego thing per se, but I think there was a fear. I saw my family not being able to eat, I think it was a fear of not having a job. It was a fear, but I'm just asking, like, what, because it's so entrenched, like what you just said, like my pastor just had his prostate taken out. People still was bringing that stuff to him. And then this PSA came back up and it's like, man, so I'm just like, what is it? Because they're doing it in love. And I know it's a lot of lack of knowledge too. Okay, I know it's that, some of that too, but I just wonder, like, what is it? Or does anyone, if I'm too esoteric,
are you speaking on the lack of going to get checked out, or what are you speaking about?
Okay, that part. Okay, so yes, sir. So that's one of them. Excuse me for pointing. Yes, that's one. So definitely, if we could talk about that, why do the men, I go get checked. I've been doing them 40 years, so I've been doing it for over 8 years. You know what I mean? But why is it a fear? And I do think that there is some mishandling, like Tuskegee experiment, things like that we could probably talk about, right? Okay, but I just feel like it's something else there. Then I wanted to go to what Pastor Brown was talking about, okay? Which is, I mean, the intention is not to hurt us, right? But it's intentional to bring that food to you. So it's just like, I'm just trying to understand why is that the flow? Why is that the rhythm? And then why are we having fear about going to get checked out? And I just like to know, what your brothers think, about that.
Go ahead, sir. My fault.
No. My apologies. we talk a lot about the systematic things that are in place, that's been in place, that affects our community, but we don't really talk about what it looks like today. You know, um, and that's one of the things that it looks like today is very poor diet habits, right? It's cool when we eat such a way when we feasting, but do are we feasting every day? So does everything have to be fried every day? Does do we always have to eat the worst part of the animal every time we eat? But we know that some of these things are systematic. We know some of us eat some things. Why? Because it was good enough for Big Mama. It's good enough for us, right? And so it goes on the plate, right? So as because when we grew up, if it was on your plate, you gonna eat it, right? So we grew up eating. We didn't see kids now. My kids' generation, they got options. When my kids come over to dad, when you at daddy house, you ain't got those. So you can leave those options in the car because your option is to eat or not to eat. That is the question. Right? What you're going to eat, your only option on what you're going to eat is what you're going to put on your fork first. But you're going to eat what I cook. What's in this house is what you're going to eat. And that's how we grew up. And so we grew up eating these things and we never stopped eating it. But then so that goes to the mindset to the food. So we don't look at food as it pertains to the functioning of our body. We don't understand what its purpose was given to us for. Its purpose was not for our pleasure. Its purpose was for our nourishment. We were supposed to eat to live. We eat so we can wake up and work tomorrow. That's what we eat for, right? But well, that's what we're supposed to be eating for. So when you talk about like they're bringing that food to him because why? Because in their mind, the food is not the problem. And so we were taught a bad relationship with food that now when it comes to you trying to tell people to do the healthy thing, we trying 100 different diets until one of them stick because we were not. I'm not gonna say I don't know if it's possible because it definitely is possible. Because when I was growing up, I remember in elementary school they was teaching me about how greens affect my blood and my blood counts. They took blood tests on us and showed us what the different numbers are for because you eat your greens. I remember learning this in my elementary school in the Bronx. I promise you. All right, so we could teach these things. It can be implemented culturally, but we just don't. It's just not. And so I think now we look at eating as diet is an extreme thing. Instead of understanding a diet is just what you eat.
Yeah, and I just want to add to, I would say, I would even take it back to it being a tradition, right? If you go back and you look at your grandparents or their parents, that's just kind of how everybody broke bread, right? And so we bring things at funerals, we bring things at weddings, we bring food for everything, right? And so this food is going to be something that's going to make you feel better. It's just something that I think is a learned behavior, and it just kind of ran with it. But then also when we're talking about lack of going to get checked out, I think more so people are just afraid of results. They're afraid of what they're going to hear, right? Or what they could potentially hear. And so if I can just kind of avoid that and whatever it is, again, back to that mentality of whatever it is will pass, then I'll be okay. And those are the also in addition to what you just said, the other two reasons for those is what I think.
I would just hit on the getting checked up part because I think you both did a good job of doing the other piece, even this part too. But I think part of the reason why people don't get checked out is, bro, because the stereotype or the perception, immaturity, bro. Just to be real, when I was young, I'm like, bro, ain't nobody sticking nothing in nothing, bro. Like, I ain't no punk. Like, bro, you not doing that. So it was just immaturity. And I'm like, bro, like, let's go. Like, I want to know now. I'm trying to live to be 100. So I want to get my check at 40. I don't want to wait till 60 to get checked. So check me now. So I think a lot of it is just immaturity. I'm late. I'm 50. I hadn't had a colonoscopy yet, man. I'm getting my first one in October. I've been trying to get one. They like, nah, bro. You know, they make me go to the bathroom, give the sample, turn it back in, but that's it. And I'm just like, bro, like, I want the real thing. Like, bro, y'all mess with me. I'm hearing, like, I remember I thought that dudes used to get this thing starting at 40. Here I'm at 50, 10 years later, and you still hadn't given me one. So my sister's a nurse practitioner. I got one now. You know, I got one on the thing. But I think some of it is just immaturity, man. You know, I know dudes nowadays, you know, I work in the high school. You know, dudes like, oh, they see you eating a banana and they like, look at you. I was like, bro, he eating a banana, bro. Like, but when we was
You got to
kids,
peel it apart. You got to break it up, man.
yeah, they like, you gotta break. I'm like, bro, I ain't breaking up no banana. I'm 100% secure in my manhood. I got 3 grown kids and a wife, and she happy, bro. Just because I eat a banana face first, bro, it don't mean nothing. But again, face first.
Hey, face first is crazy though.
Man,
like
I shouldn't have said that.
I was rocking with you, bro.
That's definitely crazy. I think this where we insert the pause at, right? We gotta say pause at this
Pause for real, bro. Like,
but just saying, man, it's like, I think a lot of it, I think not a lot of it, but I will say, I don't know what percentage, but I think some of it is just growing up, you know, just being immature, not hearing about, you know, older guys. You didn't hear about older guys didn't have conversations about doing stuff like that. Maybe now with social media and stuff like that, we hear more about it. We get access to it when you know, now at our age, you know, maybe the algorithm figured out we're a certain age, so maybe you get it. Maybe we talk to other brothers about it around the same age, you know, that we feel comfortable with. But I think, you know, to Dr. Easley's point, part of it, you know, is just immaturity, and we kind of like, nah, bro, I ain't no punk, I ain't doing that, you know. So,
Good,
but
question. Could that also
even
be
walk like Paul's?
Thanks, Walt. You know, could you tie pride into that, into what you were just saying? Oh,
absolutely, tie pride into that.
You know, okay,
absolutely.
Okay.
And pride will probably go into that a little bit.
And it could shame be in there too. Like, I think sometimes men are, you know, they get a diagnosis. I think there might be some shit. It shouldn't be. I don't think, you know what I mean? But I know, like, when my dad had got his, you know, he was down for a while. You know, and even now I have to call him and pick, hey man, you know, like, hey, let's get up and go walk, because he'd just be damn. And then it's like,
bro,
you know, it's like blaming himself or something, you know.
I've seen, I know a guy right now, he's in his 80s, and I know his wife, and she talks about that transition. Kind of what you're saying is, you know, when some men get to a certain age, you know, you come from being strong, you've been a provider, you can go out there and work in the yard, and you get into a certain age and your body breaks down and you can't do some of those things you used to do. Some of us men, we are kind of identified. Part of our identity is being able to open up the jar for our lady. You know what I mean? And when you get to a certain age and your arthritis is bad and you can't do simple things like that anymore. You know what I mean? And those things, you know, and again, you know, we're speaking about, you know, more of a latter, older man, you know, latter in life and stuff like that. But I think that's definitely a real thing, you know. So we're gonna move along. I got 2 I'm trying to get to. We'll see what we do. And this goes back to somebody mentioned this earlier before they started taking care of themselves. So most men wait until there's a problem before they start taking care of themselves. So, gentlemen, I want to hit this for about 10 minutes. And then I want to get to the last question. And then kind of want to roll up out of here. So have at it, man.
Yeah, I think I'm the one that brought this up because I said that was me.
Yeah.
When I actually started to take it serious, like, and even then I wasn't really taking it serious. I took it serious at first because it was like, boom, diabetic. 32. Oh no, I don't. This ain't working for me. I was immediately, man. I hit the treadmill that day. I left. uh, and it was crazy because I dislocated my ankle. I couldn't run. I couldn't live. I couldn't really do much of nothing. You know, but that little hand bike thing, I hated going to PT because you look weird. A 30-some-year-old man sitting there doing but that I think it's kind of, and it kind of goes back to what Dr. Easley was just talking about, was just asking. Like, I think a part of this is that mindset that I'm cool. If I don't feel nothing, there's no issue. And had I not had that blood work done, I to this day I probably wouldn't have known until I had my heart attack, probably, and I probably would have had my heart attack a lot earlier. I did all that work thinking that I was going to stop myself from having a heart attack, but not knowing by the time you get diagnosed, you've already put so much damage on your body already.
Hey, Gaddy, when was your heart attack, if you don't mind sharing, and how old were you?
It was in December. So what, a couple of weeks before I turned 40. And so I was just in the gym working out, and I got extremely exhausted randomly, and I was just like, "What? On this workout?" Finished the set, went to my next workout, and I got exhausted on like 3-4 reps. I sat down, took a breath, and the thing that hit me was I didn't go to the hospital because I ran to the gym and my kids was at home alone, so they would have saw my car outside, and so they're a little bit older, but I walk into the house and the first person I see is my son sitting right there. He looks at me, he called his mom, like, "Hey, something's wrong with Dad." I'm good, relax, So it's just one of those things. Like, I felt good. I thought nothing was wrong until something was wrong.
No, I think, and it's a part of what we were just discussing as well, is that you hit it. If I don't feel nothing is wrong, then obviously ain't nothing wrong, right? But it comes down to knowing your body, right? Understanding how your body is reacting to certain things, things like that. So the only time you go to a doctor is if something's wrong. If you feel like you need some assistance with your taxes, you're gonna go to a tax person, right? When you feel like you need it. If you don't feel like you need it, you're not gonna deal with it. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the important thing that you just hit on, is most of the time we'll walk around here and we'll say, I woke up, check, right? My body feel good, check. Mentally, I feel like I'm gonna have a good day, check. Not knowing what's going on inside of you. And so we don't really have that mindset to really go and check. And then I think also too, I think somebody said it earlier, is just lack of knowledge, right? Having these conversations and just understanding, hey, these are things that can happen to you. And I think until it hits home or close to home for you, then you really start putting your foot on the gas to take it a little bit more seriously. Because if it's just somebody else, you're like, well, that's just them. That was the lifestyle that they lived. Whatever the case may be, we kind of brush it off. But it has to be something close to you. And I say that because my mom in 2018, she had a stroke, right? And then from her stroke, she now has developed some Alzheimer's. She had bleeding in the brain, things of that nature. And I also know that she was a smoker for a long period of her life as well, right? So it's certain habits and certain things that I kind of look at, and um, you got to kind of look at the things that your parents do or the people around you in your family do, so you can say, okay, you know what, I see how it affects them. Let me kind of step back, because I don't. You're either gonna take on what they're doing or you're gonna stay clean away from it. One of the two. And so you just kind of have to figure out which one you're gonna do. But again, I really think you hit that on the head. If I don't feel nothing, I don't see nothing, then everything is good.
I think with me, it actually, I remember mine, I think, started with a misdiagnosis. Okay. This is different. It was a misdiagnosis. I just, being transparent. my parents, both of them had, sickle cell trait. And so one of my sisters, it was four of us. One of my sisters, she had the trait. Two of my other siblings, my oldest brother, and then my sister right above me, had the full-blown disease. And then I was told that I had the trait, right? And so the older one and my oldest brother, and then my sister right above me, both of them passed away 3 months apart, my senior year of high school. And so, which was a hard hit. And then, so I'm getting tested and everything, and I was told that I had, the trait and stuff like that. It wasn't until 2022, June of 2022, when I was here and, doing my exercise and stuff like that. And I got real dehydrated because I like to push myself and everything. And I was running with a weight vest. And then I started experiencing this real bad pain. And so I told my wife, and I was like, hey, I'm having this bad pain in my chest and my back and all this other stuff. And I jumped in the shower. The heat, the hot water was helping a little bit. I said, well, I'm still going to go to work. You know how we are. We try to thug it out, right? And we try to push through. You know what I'm saying? So I pushed through. And then while I'm there, I still got that thugging it out mindset. And then, one of the guys who was part of this program we were working with, he's like, look, I appreciate you coming in, but if you need to leave, go take care of yourself. And it was about, the pain was so bad. And I said to my wife, I need to go to the hospital. Long story short, I was misdiagnosed. They said I had the trait, but when they came back, they said that I had sickle cell disease, but not full blown. It was a variant of the disease. And so it was then when they were saying to me, and then I was even saying, and my wife was saying, that I need to dial in even more than what I was doing as it relates to my health, because one thing I was not doing was hydration. And they say, for those of you who don't know, so your cells don't sickle and get caught together, you need to be hydrated, and that was something that I wasn't doing. And so I think that was a wake-up call for me, and my wife will always look at me. She can look at my eyes and tell if I'm drinking a lot or not drinking a lot of water. And so that's something that I always make sure, I have water with me to stay hydrated. And like I said, I dial in, making sure I eat stuff that's going to really promote a nutritional excellence within my life now, because I know when I don't take care of myself, what can happen. I know I said a lot. Sorry about that, but I just wanted to share that,
I like that word. You said nutritional excellence, bro. That's added to my list.
There you
One
go.
thing, I'll just say this, and then I'll let I think Dr. Easley go. One thing I want to talk about is the why. You know what I mean? Most men wait until there's a problem before they start tanking themselves. Why? Because men got a lot of stuff going on sometimes, Some of you got families, you got jobs, you got work. I mean, I said jobs and work separately. Some people got jobs and work. You know what I mean? You got chores around the house, you got outdoor stuff. The freaking car break down. Now you got to spend how many hours on YouTube trying to figure out how to do this. So now them hours on YouTube is taken away from something else, and then the AC unit goes out. It's like, bro, so it's like I need to take off this amount of time to sit on hold for 3 hours. Like I got to schedule 3 hours to call the VA to hopefully get through to make an appointment, and then I get disconnected, and then I got another 3 hours, and then I got to take off from work, and then they're going to reschedule my appointment and not let me know until the day of. Like I already took off of work. You know what I mean? So just like little stuff, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but when you add that and you multiply kids and families and a lot of other different things that men got going on, sometimes taking care of yourself just becomes a lack a lack of it doesn't become a priority. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is you wait until the tire blows out. You wait until you have the heart attack. You wait until you get the diagnosis. You know what I mean? But I know I said this, but a lot of times we don't look at why a lot of men don't prioritize taking care of stuff that they need to. And this goes back to the thing why we got to make it a priority and a responsibility of taking care of ourselves because we got a lot of stuff going on.
That's that
Okay.
being selfish, right? That brings it
Yep.
right back around full circle to
Yep.
what we were talking about, right? Being selfish and making sure you're okay to do all of those things that you just mentioned. You know what I mean? That selfishness. So I definitely agree with that. But that just puts more emphasis on why we need to be more selfish with our time.
100.
I have another idea. I think I had mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, brothers. It was like what's the word? Worthiness. I wonder sometimes if subconsciously some of us don't think that we're worthy of that kind of care. You know, it's like my job is just to take care of other people. You know, and and I just say that, I try not to get emotional thinking about it. Like I look at how my father grew up. He grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and whenever I go back there and just see like the poverty that they were in, I'm just like, man. And then I look at where he is now, right? You know, and how that's not the life that we had, right? So I'm so proud of him for what he did. But then with the health stuff he has doing now, I can see how over the years, yeah, you know, he had a couple of brews, but drinking wasn't his problem, you know. Smoked cigarettes, but he stopped that a long time ago. But he always made sure that we, as best as we could, were taken care of, and I think at a sacrifice to him. And I think that goes back to our conversation last week. It's the the struggle that we deal with that people don't see, and how we said that's the best part. But I think if we, and I want to lean into what Katie just said, I think then when we start to do the self-care, I think that's when it manifests itself into, I would say, healthy selfishness. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm taking care of me, I got to take care of you. But I don't know. It's kind of a question at the same time. I wonder if it's a thing of worthiness, like men, brothers, thinking, yeah, I'm not worthy of that. You know, I'm just here just to basically be a machine and just keep going. I got young brothers who I mentor now, and they will say, you know, women don't give a about how men feel, and I'm like, man, you know, like, but I know some of them had that experience, you know, that tells me that. So I never want to minimize that, but I wonder if it's also a piece of worthiness. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you see yourself as, you know, God wants you to do this. God has made for you to do this, but then I sometimes I wonder if they would even believe that. You know,
I would definitely say yes. There's definitely a group of men who would probably feel that way, who definitely think that way. But we due to time, I'm gonna let Gaddy answer, and then I'm gonna hit to the last question.
Oh no! I answered this one. I think I answered this one already.
I meant as far as I thought you wanted to respond to what Dr. Easley is saying.
Oh yeah, the doctor. Well, I was just gonna say exactly what you said. I think there is especially these young group of men. I think it is because especially when you brought up the whole women don't care what men think. Like I can and I say for the younger men, because I remember when I think of my relationship in my life, you know, growing up, you know, I was my mama's youngest son, so you know, I was somewhat of a mama's boy. And then, you know, all my mama's friends say, "Oh, he's so cute, so she's pinched to death," right? Annoying. But what I also grew with that being said, around those women, I grew up my whole life hearing from black women. And people get mad when I say this, but this is my experience. all I've heard was women get around and talk about how much black men ain't. All men do is men good for nothing. Women can take over the world and put men in the basement and only pump them for, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so I've heard this, and it's like, okay, we get it. Now we got social media and we hear it every day. And, you know, so when you start talking about that worthiness, Like when you grow up and you hear from the counterparts that you thought you was gonna build a life with when you became an adult, your only relationship with them is how much you are not worthy of nothing. Where does that worthiness come from? You know what I'm saying? Now we know spiritually what the answer is, but as we're raising a generation of men, you're going to continue to fight the same cycle and pray that they find the most high when they grow up to find their worthiness.
Gentlemen, look, we about to tap out of this podcast. But before we do, we got one last this is more of a question. It's more of a question, just your little bit of feedback. If your son, nephew, or young man, maybe somebody you mentor, somebody like that, watch this episode tonight. What is one habit you would encourage him to start now that would benefit him for the rest of their life? And I know we kind of started about habits and stuff at the beginning, and like kind of what Katie kind of talked about, we bringing it full circle. So, gentlemen, have at it. What is one? Or you can give more than one, or you can just give a final thought, a snapshot, just pretty much just leave the audience for somebody who's ever watching this with a little bit of something that they can take and apply to their life as they move forward and as they close out this podcast. So again, if your son, nephew, or young man you mentor watch this episode tonight, what is one habit you would encourage him to start now that will benefit him for the rest of his life?
I would have to say that what I've learned and what I would want them to learn or know and begin to carry throughout the rest of their life is that you can't separate a growing, thriving relationship with God with taking care of your body. That they go hand in hand, because how the Bible says to honor and glorify God with your body, because like the Bible says, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so that's what I would say, is that you can't separate that from your relationship with God, and then your health from relationship with God. And the other thing is definitely always check take care of your mental health, because if your mental ain't right, nothing else is going to be right.
Oh man, I love this question. It's real simple for me. It's three things. I would tell them to practice three things: prayer, abstinence, and reading. Right? And I know when we hear abstinence, we only thinking, we thinking in the physical, right? Like your physical attraction to a woman, but abstain from every. Listen to the conversation today. Abstain from those fast food, from bad food habits. All right, abstain from not even just from having sex. Abstain from women, young men. I'm talking to young men, and just hear me out. I think we spend too much time focusing on getting women than we do focus on building a life for ourselves. Right? I hate talking because I understand what the scripture says, so I don't never talk preparation for divorce. But as men, I understand that most men have been divorced. Right? Most men that have been married have been divorced. More women, right? But anyway, now when we look at that number, when she walks away, well, when she shows up first, what do you have for her? And then when she walks away, what does she take with her? Establish yourself first. Build these habits, so this way, what you have is sustainable, whether people come in or come out of your life. And then read. Whether I think you should always be reading at a minimum of 2 books at a time, whatever book you're reading, and the scriptures. And then prayer every morning. Start your day off with it. But you should. I think one of the arts that I'm getting into understanding, so I can try to share with others, is how do we practice this concept of men should always pray. how do I continue to have a continuous heart of prayer as my day going on? Do I have to stop and go find a closet to go pray in? Do I just got to stop and say mumble under my, or what does this look like? Because I think that connection to the Father will start the process to a lot of other issues that we have personally and then collectively.
Yeah, so for me, it comes down to, in addition to what you guys just said, because that's a part of it. What that's the majority of it. That's all of it, really. But I would just sprinkle in there is just listen more, talk less, right? Listen more, talk less. Listen to what everybody has put out, because these are lived experiences. You know what I mean? Listen more and just talk a little bit less. And I'll leave it at that.
You got over there, Dr. Easley.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all leaders for all of this. Stay curious so that you'll continue to explore. Be willing to learn. So that means stay teachable, because there's always something new to understand. And I think I'm saying this is something that I struggled with, and it comes back every so often, but I'm good with it. I talked about it on the first show, which is to speak life to yourself. Like the same way you speak, or it's like the same way you see yourself technically will be how you treat and talk to other people. So if you talk to yourself like you're not worthy, and I appreciate you, brother Reverend Gaddard, for breaking that down and explaining it, and also answering my question. Because if you're not speaking that to yourself, then you're actually putting that out, and you want to get out, you want to get back what you put out. So definitely work to put out positivity, because you're worthy of it. That's it.
I've been listening to you brothers, and I didn't change my answer about 10 or 15 different times, trying to avoid touching on the same conversations and topics that you guys talked on. So I think for what I'm gonna go with, I'm just gonna go with something along the line of consistency and mindset. Coach, he talked about that earlier, where he didn't talk about it. He put in the chat again, Coach, thanks for your feedback and your support and your comments. One of the things he talked about was the mindset piece. Where is it? Right there. One of the reasons why he said in the beginning that he would have worked on his mindset. So I think that's one of those things that, if we would go back 10 years ago, a lot of time we say, oh man, if I knew what I knew now and I was to go back in high school, like bro, I'd be the prom king and the football star and all of this stuff, man. Like, oh, I would have made sergeant major in 8 years. You know what I mean? But if you look at it, some of it is knowledge and information and mindset, a lot of all of the things that y'all talked about. But if our mindset is not there, I think that's one of the things that has helped us mature into the men that we are right now. You know what I mean? From, you look at our weight loss journeys that some of us have had, or the divorces or the relationship problems that some of us have had, and, the financial issues and stuff that we've all had. A lot of those things where we were young and we were immature and stuff like that. So, and we didn't have the right mindset then. So I think if we would go back and, to that point, if I would go back 10 years or a young man to start working on something, that would be that mindset. And along with that is going to come the discipline, the consistency, and all of those things that you brothers talked about, So with that being said, man, gentlemen, man, I really appreciate every verb, every word, noun, every single syllable that came out of you guys' mouth this evening. This show, this 6-part series would not be possible without y'all. So I really appreciated that when I reached out, all you guys were more than willing to accept and respond. And we were able to have this great conversation tonight, man. I'm really looking forward to the next 3. And with that being said, gentlemen, I love y'all. We out of here, and with stay behind, like don't click off yet, because We'll go behind the scenes real quick. All right. But other than that, for the audience, we'll see y'all next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Uncle Junior Network. We out. Love y'all, brothers.